Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 105 of the Dear Herbalist podcast titled Herb-Drug Interactions, a deep dive into Cytochrome P450 enzymes. Now, if you are new here, you are most certainly welcome. This podcast is designed to speak to herbalists and plant enthusiasts alike, all who want to dive deep into herbal medicine as well as herbal formulation. If you are a returning listener, welcome back. Tonight we are going to dive a bit deep, so as I always say, get your pens, notepads, paper, back of a receipt, and write down this information that I'm going to share with you this evening. I know that it will help solve a piece of your herbal formulation puzzle, so let's get into it. Now tonight, like I said before, we are going to talk about Cytochrome P450 enzymes, what they are, and their relevance in herb-drug interactions. We're also going to look at why this matters for herbalists. And as always, at the end, I'm going to give you some key takeaways so that you can apply the knowledge that I have been giving you over the past 20, 30, 40 minutes or so. So when it comes to understanding herb-drug interactions, it's very important to understand the chemical properties of both the herbs as well as the drugs, and how these compounds interact with each other. This knowledge will allow you as an herbalist and even a healthcare provider, if you are listening as well, to better predict potential interactions as well as their effects. By understanding the specific chemical pathways and enzyme systems involved, such as what we're going to talk about tonight, the Cytochrome P450 system, you can more accurately anticipate how herbs and drugs will behave when they are actually used together, leading to a safer and more effective protocol or even a strategy that you might use. So let's dive in. Now, what are P450 enzymes? Cytochrome P450 enzymes, or CYP450 enzymes, they're a family of proteins that act like biochemical processing units within our body. They are found in several organs, with the highest concentration in our liver, but they also exist in the intestines as well as the kidneys. Their primary job is basically to help the body break down and eliminate substances, and this includes medications, any type of toxins, or even natural compounds like hormones. Now, how do these enzymes work? They actually act like, a way that I guess I could explain it is they're like specialized customs officers with specific tools. So when a substance, whether it be a drug, a toxin, or even a hormone, enters into the so-called checkpoint, they perform a series of actions. The first thing that they do is identification. This is where the enzyme recognizes the substance and binds it near its active site. And this is called the heme group, Heme. If you see that, that's what that means. Step number 2 is the preparation. The enzyme then receives energy, which is electrons, from a helper molecule called NADPH, which is like fueling up for the task ahead. Step number 3, we call this oxygen activation. And this is where the enzyme grabs an oxygen molecule from its surroundings and it's preparing it to be able to be used. Step 4, modification. Using the oxygen as a tool, the enzyme modifies the substance through oxidation, which is most common, reduction, or a process called hydrolysis. And these processes are similar to a customs officer stamping or marking the substance, if that gives you a better way to look at it. And then the last step is release. So the modified substance, once it's modified, it is then released and now more water soluble and ready for further processing or elimination. So these are the steps that it goes through once the substance hits your body. And of course, in this instance, we're talking about medications or herbs. Now, the CYP, as we're going to say going forward, okay, CYP450 enzymes, they don't just decide what to do with the substance. They actively modify them through the chemical reactions. This modification is very important for our body's ability to be able to process and eliminate various compounds, including many medications. So like I explained before, when you're trying to understand if there is a significant herb and drug interaction, these are the processes that you have to understand in order to be able to better predict whether or not, if you have a client that is using a particular medication, or using other herbs, this will help you to be able to do a little bit more research to understand the enzymes and the mechanisms behind the herb or even the medication, so that you can understand how to properly pair them. Now, do I sit and promote medications? No, but the reality of it is that there are a lot of people out there using medication. If you have clients, sometimes they'll tell you what medications they're using, and sometimes they don't. So what I always recommend that you do is that if you have a client in front of you and they are under a doctor's care, I would definitely look at what their diagnoses are. And then I would go to the Merrick manual and I would look at typically what type of pharmaceutical medications are prescribed for this type of issue. Now, they could prescribe a myriad of different things that may not be listed in the Merrick manual, but at least it'll give you a general idea of typically what they would prescribe for this particular type of condition. Once you have that knowledge, okay, and this is for clients that may say, well, I have that, but no, I'm not taking anything. And you're kind of getting that suspicion through further questioning that y'all might be taking something extra. You just don't want to tell me. So if you get that feeling, right, if you get that intuition like there's something's missing here, then I would definitely take those steps so that you can better understand the chemical properties of the potential medications that they might have, especially if you are recommending an herbal protocol. Because remember, we're all about safety first, no matter what you believe or how you look at things, safety first. So always think about that when it comes to recommending herbal protocols. Now, the process that I just explained to you, this process is known as phase 1 metabolism. All right. And this is where the CYP 450 enzymes use oxidation, reduction, or hydrolysis to chemically alter the substances, making them easier to process and eliminate. That's the bottom line goal through phase 1 metabolism. Now, why are these enzymes important? You're like, okay, we're learning about enzymes. Why in the world are these things important? For formulating herbalists, okay, this is who I'm talking to tonight. Because CYP 450 enzymes, they handle such a wide range of substances, they do play a major role in how the drugs are metabolized, as well as the herbs. So they determine how quickly or how slowly medications break down in the body. And so this is why certain drugs or herbs can either speed up or slow down processes, sometimes leading to dangerous interactions. So for example, some drugs need the CYP 450 enzymes to activate them. And usually that's your pain medications, right? And then other drugs are broken down too quickly if the enzymes are overactive, reducing the drug's effectiveness. Now, if an enzyme is blocked, then a drug might stay in the system, or an herb, right? The chemical compounds might stay in the system too long, which will increase the risk of toxicity. So this is the reason why understanding how these enzymes work, the chemicals that you are dealing with, whether it be through herbs or medications, understanding why these interactions happen, how they happen, and this is why this is important. Because again, you don't want to increase the risk of toxicity, and you don't want to reduce the effectiveness of your herbal remedies. So these are the reasons why you need to keep these enzymes, and many more, but we're focusing on this one for tonight. This is the reason why that's important. Now let's look in a little closer at the drug and herb interactions via the CYP50 enzymes. Now, these enzymes play a critical role in metabolizing both pharmaceutical drugs and herbal compounds. These interactions can occur bidirectionally, right? With herbs affecting the drug metabolisms, as well as the drugs influencing how the herbal compounds are being processed. So from an herbalist perspective, we look at how are the medications that our clients could be taking or are taking, how are they influencing the herbal compounds in the remedies that we're recommending. Now, if you're a physician, you would be looking at how do the herbs that our clients are taking, how is that impacting the metabolizing of the drugs or pharmaceutical medicines that we are prescribing. Okay. Now, remember, like I said before, herbalists, we don't prescribe, we recommend. Doctors prescribe. So please keep that in mind. Please make sure none of the prescription and that type of stuff is on your herbal documents and things that you give to clients. If you are an herbalist, please stay away from that term. That's just a little side note. Now let's look at how drugs influence herbal actions through these particular enzymes. The drugs can either induce or inhibit these enzymes, affecting how herbal compounds are actually broken down, which is metabolism. So with induction, that means that the drugs speed up the way the herbs are broken down. And the effect of that is either a weaker protocol or shortened herbal effects. An example of this is a pharmaceutical drug called rifampin, and it's a potent inducer of the CYP3A4 enzymes, which can accelerate the metabolism of certain herbal compounds, potentially reducing their effectiveness. For instance, when taking with milk thistle, rifampin may increase the breakdown of its active components, diminishing its intended therapeutic effects. So if it breaks it down way too fast before it has a chance to get into your system and have those effects, obviously that is not a good thing. So that's one way. The other way that drugs can influence herbal actions is through inhibition, which means the drugs slow down the way the herbs are metabolized in the body. And this effect, it causes a stronger, more prolonged herbal effect. So for example, with St. John's wort, this induces the CYP3A4 enzyme, leading to reduced efficacy of certain drugs. So for example, it can decrease the effectiveness of blood thinners if your clients are on those, like warfarin, which would increase the risk of clotting. So this is the reason why you need to know exactly how these particular pharmaceutical drugs are interacting with herbal actions. So what are the implications for herbalists as well as healthcare providers? You never know who's listening to you, you know? Number one, as far as herbalists, we should consider adjusting herbal dosages for clients on CYP inducing or inhibiting medications. So with this, it's going to take a little bit of research, understanding what exactly they're on. Make sure you're taking a thorough health assessment. I don't care if it's your uncle, your cousin, your mama, your brother, even if it's your kids. Do a thorough health assessment so that you can understand exactly the condition that they have, if they are on any medications, or the potential of them being prescribed any type of medications. Do your research. Okay. The other thing is you want, as herbalists, to look at the potential loss of the herb's ability to work when combining them with certain drugs. So you may have that client that has their blood pressure medication and they don't want to come off of it, or they feel like, well, I'm taking steps with my doctor to reduce it. So you know already that they have these drugs in their system. You know already that they are potentially taking these drugs. So because of that, you want to make sure that any herbs that you recommend don't negatively interact, and they can also stay in the system long enough to be able to do what they need to do. Now, for pharmacists and physicians, obviously just be aware of potential herb-drug interactions and then actively inquire about your patient's herbal supplement use. Okay? That's definitely important. Now, let me give you some key considerations in drug-herb interactions. Number one, metabolism alterations. Now, like I said before, drugs can affect herbal detoxification processes. So, for example, if your client is on a statin, this may inhibit CYP3A4, and this potentially affects herbs metabolized by this specific enzyme. So what you want to do, how you want to study this, let's say you want to put together a particular chart, or let's say you have you're working in the community as a community herbalist, and you start to see some common health issues within that particular community. What you can do is look at the enzymes that are impacted, right? And then you want to look at herbs that are metabolized by this specific enzyme, and you can create a list. That way, if you have clients that are on these random drugs or common drugs that are recommended based on that particular condition, you'll kind of have a list already of the herbs that are metabolized by the enzymes that could be impacted by those particular drugs. So I hope that makes sense, but have a study guide or write it in your herbalist notebook so that you can have that information readily and available when you are formulating for the community, your family, or whoever it could be. Another key consideration is absorption changes. So some drugs can alter the absorption of herbal properties. So for example, if your client is using proton pump inhibitors, this can reduce iron absorption from the herbs. So, if you have iron issues and, you have anemia, and it's just like it's like a domino effect, right? And then number 3, the third key consideration is the potential for enhanced toxicity. So drug-induced enzyme inhibition can lead to herbal compound accumulation. So if, let's say, like I said before, with the drugs, if they are taking a specific prescription medication and it's really stopping or preventing the enzymes from doing what they need to do, then you have the herbal compound accumulating in the body, which can lead to toxicity. You don't want that herb accumulating within the system like that. Typically, you want the herb to come in, hit the chemical pathways and the receptors it needs to address the issue, and then be eliminated appropriately, because there is a process called ADME, which we talked about before, in terms of how the herbs are metabolized throughout the body. So you want the herb to go through completely that process and not just be sitting there and the compounds are just accumulating. The goal is for it to hit its targets and to be excreted safely from the body. The other thing is caution is needed when you combine herbs and drugs metabolized by the same CYP enzymes. Again, have that list ready, write those things down. What's the enzymes? What herbs and drugs are metabolized by these enzymes? That's very important that you understand that as a formulating herbalist. As an herbalist, who formulates remedies, understanding how pharmaceuticals can alter herbal metabolism through these enzymes is very important for ensuring safety, effectiveness, and consistency within your herbal remedies. So without considering these interactions, an herbal formulation may become either too weak, and this is if a medication speeds up the herbal metabolism, then that means that the herb can lose its effectiveness. It could become too strong, and that's if a medication slows down the way the herb is metabolized in the body, which means the herb may become too strong or too potent, or it could become toxic. The other thing is that your formulation could become unpredictable, and that's if a drug interferes with how the herb is absorbed or detoxified from the body. The herbal effects can be inconsistent or unexpected across different individuals. And this is why you don't want to do the one-size-fits-all remedies. That's just another side note. A formulating herbalist must take these factors into consideration so that you can create more reliable and therapeutically sound herbal protocols or products if that is your forte. So, let me give you some key factors that you must consider. I'll give you some key factors, and then after that I'll talk to you about how you can address drug-induced herb metabolism changes and some actionable key takeaways. And then we're going to close it on out. Maybe some safety concerns. We definitely need to talk about that too. All right. So some key factors. Number 1, herbal properties and their metabolic pathways. So before blending herbs, you must understand which active compounds are affected by the CYP enzymes. Are there alkaloids, flavonoids, glycosides? Which active compounds are affected by these particular enzymes? You also want to understand whether an herb is metabolized quickly or slowly and how that changes when paired with certain drugs. All right. Then you also want to understand how different extraction methods, so tinctures or teas or powders, how this also influences metabolism. And examples of that is like curcumin, which is in turmeric, is metabolized by CYP3A4. And a drug that induces this enzyme can actually make your turmeric remedy less effective. Or let's say if you're using berberine, right, a compound found in golden seal, it's metabolized by the CYP2D6. And a drug that inhibits this enzyme can make berberine accumulate and become too strong within the system. So those are the things you need to take into consideration. Number 2, the role of the delivery methods in metabolism. This is very important. So how an herb is prepared influences its interaction with the CYP enzymes. So for example, if you're using alcohol-based tinctures, they absorb quickly and bypass first pass metabolism, which reduces the CYP450 interactions. If you are using capsules and powdered herbs, they undergo hepatic metabolism, that's within your liver, and are more affected by enzyme alterations. Topical applications generally avoid the CYP450 metabolism, but they can still be absorbed through the systems of your body. So these things play a crucial role in understanding how it's prepared and how that's going to influence its interaction with these particular enzymes. So some examples of this is if a drug induces CYP enzymes, a tincture might be a better option than a capsule to make sure that you maintain the potency of your formulation. A tincture might be a better option than a capsule in order to maintain the potency. Now, if a drug inhibits the CYP enzymes, a lower dose or longer time between doses might be needed to avoid any excessive buildup that could occur. The other thing you want to look at, number 3, is the client's medication profile. So a formulating herbalist must always consider whether their client is taking medications that alter their herb metabolism. So drugs that speed up metabolism, they call them enzyme inducers. They may require higher herbal doses or different combinations. Drugs that slow down metabolism, they call those enzyme inhibitors. They may require lower doses to prevent herbal buildup. And then if your client is on multiple medications, this can cause overlapping effects, making interactions more complex. So you really are going to have to look at it from the standpoint of like putting together a puzzle and understanding that proper amount of herb that you might need, the type of herb you might need, and how they're going to all interact together. So examples of that, let's say if your client is using St. John's wort. St. John's wort is a strong CYP3A4 inducer, and other herbs in the formula might not work as expected because of that. So let's say if your client is taking a prescription drug called fluoxetine, which is like a Prozac. It is a CYP2D6 inhibitor. So let's say if your client is taking Prozac, right? Prozac is a CYP2D6 inhibitor. And let's say you decide to recommend a protocol that includes valerian and skullcap. Now, if you do this, because of the interactions that occur between the valerian, skullcap, as well as Prozac, right? Then your clients can experience excessive sedation. Why? Because the herb is staying in the system longer than it should. Because Prozac is blocking the enzymes that are trying to break down the valerian and the skullcap. So this is the reason why you got to take those things into consideration as a formulating herbalist. Now, the other part, number 4, is herb-drug interactions that alter detoxification as well as the body's ability to absorb nutrients. So you want to consider whether a drug is either interfering with the nutrient absorption or the detoxification pathways that the herbs that are in our body rely on. So if a drug reduces stomach acid, then iron-rich herbs will not absorb well. If a drug impairs the liver function, then detoxifying herbs may be ineffective or overwhelming. Or if a drug slows down bile production, then fat-soluble herbal constitutes may not be absorbed properly. So for example, if somebody has a proton pump inhibitor, which reduces stomach acid, then let's say if you recommend nettles and yellow dock for iron, and both of these are iron-rich herbs, they may not be absorbed very well. Or if your client is on statins, which we talked about before, inhibit the CYP3A4, then if you recommend milk thistle's liver protective effects may be altered. So you want to understand how the herb drug interactions alter the detoxification and nutrient absorption processes within the body. And then number 5, herb to herb interactions within a formula. Because yes, herbs, it's all chemicals, right? Chemical processes. They can interact with each other as well. So a well-formulated herbal blend should balance the metabolism rather than unintentionally amplify or even weaken certain effects. That's always the goal, is to create a balanced formula. So if one herb induces metabolism and the other one inhibits it, then their effects could cancel each other out. This is also key to understand when you're looking at herb synergy. This is one of the components that you should understand when you look at herb synergy. How are they working together, or even can they work together based on their chemical properties? The other thing is, if multiple herbs compete for the same CYP enzyme, one herb may dominate while the other one becomes inactive. And then if 2 herbs slow down metabolism, then their effects can become too strong, leading to toxicity risk. And you definitely don't want to do that. So an example of that is, let's say somebody is taking golden seal, formulation with golden seal, which is a CYP 3A4 inhibitor, and kava, which is a CYP 2D6 inhibitor, and a CYP inhibiting drug, let's say like Prozac. All of them slow down the metabolism, and this, of course, will increase toxicity risk. Another example could be turmeric, which is a CYP 3A4 substrate, and St. John's wort, which is a CYP 3A4 inducer, right? Let's say that's the formulation. Turmeric may lose the potency due to the rapid metabolism, from the St. John's wort. So these are the things that you need to look at. And I know it may sound really sciencey, but it really is simple. It's understanding what is the enzyme that is involved here, and what actions do the phytochemicals in the herb have on this particular enzyme, as well as the pharmaceutical. If they are taking pharmaceuticals, what are those actions that happen? And so you want to create balance. Always think of herbal medicine and anything that is within herbal medicine as balancing out the scale. So if something is causing something to go too fast, then you want to slow it down a little bit to create proper balance, right? You don't want to break down the herb too fast so that it doesn't have the chance to get into the body to do what it needs to do. But you also don't want to slow it down and allow it to accumulate in the body either. So it's all about balance. If you don't remember nothing else that I said, I tell my daughter all the time, if you don't remember anything else that I say, remember the last 500 things that I said. So I'm going to say that to you. If you don't remember anything that I say, remember the last 500 things that I said. But what's important in herbal medicine, it's all about balance. All right. And then number 6, adjusting your formulations for individual variability. Understand that not everyone metabolizes herbs and drugs the same way. Some people, it could be due to their body constitution. They tend to be fast metabolizers, or they can be slow metabolizers of certain CYP enzymes. So you want to look at that in terms of their health and their health systems. When it comes to liver health, if liver function is impaired, all right, then herb metabolism may be slower. So if they have any issues with their liver functions, that could be the reason why the herbs are not being metabolized as they need to be. So if you have a client who's like, well, it ain't working for me, I don't know what's going on with that, I took this and it ain't working. Okay, well, then we need to better understand how your liver is functioning to determine whether or not these herbs are being metabolized as they should be, at the speed they should be being metabolized at. The other thing you want to consider is age, when adjusting formulations. So older adults typically have reduced P450 enzyme activity, meaning that herbs may stay in the body just a little bit longer. So take that into consideration if you are creating herbal protocols for older people. An example of kind of what I spoke about before is that you may have a young, healthy person on St. John's wort. Now, they might metabolize these herbs very quickly, requiring stronger formulations. Another example is you may have an elderly person on multiple medications, and they might need lower herbal doses to avoid excessive buildup. So keep those things in mind. That's how it happens in real time. So How can you address drug-induced herb metabolism changes? Number one, ask about medications. I know I said it before, but I cannot stress that enough. Always check what pharmaceutical a client is taking before recommending herbs. And no matter what, don't try to make them feel bad because you have such a heavy, hard stance on pharmaceutical drugs and all this other kind of stuff. Trust me, I'm there with you. But approach is always the best thing to consider when you're trying to make recommendations to clients, especially when you have clients that are trying to slowly understand everything that herbal medicine is and what it can do for them, minus the fear mongering that may be occurring on the other side. Like, if you stop this medication, you're going to drop dead, So they're having to deal with a lot and contend with a lot mentally. So you want to be, just ask, just be careful, but just ask. What kind of medications are you on? Oh, okay. Now, really? Statins? Well, did you know that? Then they're like, oh, shoot. Okay, I ain't going to tell you what it is next time. I'm just going to say, yeah, I'm on nothing. No, you want education. Yes, you can educate them on pharmaceutical drugs and statins and all this. Yes, you can. But in the meantime, get the information so that when you're considering formulation for them, you exactly understand what it is that these pharmaceutical drugs can do, have, or will do, and how they'll interact with your herbs while you're in the process of educating them and them slowly chiming down and getting away from depending on those type of medicines. Okay. So just be patient with people. The other thing that herbalists want to consider is adjusting the herb selection and the dosage. So if a drug speeds up herb metabolism, consider either changing the type of herb that you are recommending or adjusting the dose of that herb. The other thing is educate about timing. So some interactions can be reduced by taking herbs at a different time of a day than medications. So consider that. And then the last thing is to monitor the effects. All right. So if you have a client that reports any unexpected herbal effects, consider whether the medication that they might be on could be either slowing up or speeding up the metabolism of that particular herb or herbal formulation. Now, as promised, I'm going to give you some actionable key takeaways for formulating Herbalist when it comes to herb-drug interactions and the Cyp450 enzymes. Now, by integrating some of these strategies into your business, herbalists can enhance the safety as well as efficacy of their formulations while minimizing the risk of adverse herb-drug interactions. So I'm going to give you some key takeaways. Number one, understand CYP enzyme interactions. Familiarize yourself with major CYP enzymes. So that's your CYP3A4, CYP2D6, CYP29, CYP1A2, and CYP2C19. Right? And again, create a chart for yourself. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. Create a chart for yourself so that you understand these particular enzymes in the body, what they do, and their role in drug metabolism as well as herb metabolism. Okay? Because these enzymes determine how the drugs and the herbs are actually broken down in the body. Right? So understand that. Number two, be very cautious with high-risk herbs. So certain herbs like St. John's wort, golden seal, kava, these can significantly impact drug metabolism, leading to reduced drug effectiveness or increased toxicity. So you want to be cautious of those. If you use them, definitely want to understand if your clients are on any type of medications, because you don't do any harm. That's number one. Number three, assess medication profiles. So always review a client's medication, especially drugs with narrow therapeutic windows like your warfarin or cyclosporine, because these drugs are highly sensitive to metabolic changes that are caused by the herbs. So have your clients with your first appointment or whatever, hey, bring in all your medications and herbs and all that stuff that you're taking so we can write all that stuff down. Number four, recognize how herbs affects drug concentration. So herbs can either speed up, which is induce, or they can slow down, which means inhibit CYP enzyme activity. And this can either lower or raise the drug levels in the body. So you want to take that into consideration. The other thing is that you want to account, this is number 5, account for bidirectional interactions. So just as herbs can alter drug metabolism, the drugs can also change the metabolism and the effectiveness of herbal compounds. Number 6, consider individual variability. So it could be genetics, it could be their body constitution, it could be their age, the way their liver is functioning. All of these things influence a person's response to both herbs and drugs, okay? So like I said before, older adults and individuals with liver disease may metabolize herbs more slowly, requiring, the adjustment of the dose. Number 7, use reliable sources and stay updated. So make sure that you're referring to reputable scientific sources, clinical databases, clinical herbal medicine databases, so that you can stay informed on the current research regarding herb and drug interactions. So you don't always have to split your brain trying to figure out how this all is going to work. If you do enough research, there are people out there, scientists as well as phytochemists and all of this, who have studied these interactions and actions. And so it'll give you some additional information to add to your herbalist notebook. So you'll know already that this scientific study has been done on this. So this is some of the actions or interactions that they say occur. So that will save you a little time. And then number 8, implement some monitoring strategies. So establish clear tracking and monitoring protocols for your clients who use herbal supplements and prescription medications. So you want to make sure that you're constantly tracking and constantly monitoring, right? This is very, very important because you don't want to cause any type of harm, injury, or any of that, and adjust your formulations if any unexpected side effects or additional issues may occur. And then number 9, educate your clients and encourage transparency. So clients should always disclose all herb and supplement use to also their healthcare provider, right? But also to us as herbalists. And we can then explain to them why, using these certain type of herbs or certain type of pharmaceuticals or vice versa, why, you might not want to use these things, because if you are using herbs or certain herbal formulas and you're also taking certain drugs, then that could cause issues. So at the end of the day, you want to make sure that your clients really fully understand both sides of the coin, not just from your anti-pharmaceutical drug standpoint, but really understand what chemicals are involved in a lot of these pharmaceutical drugs, looking at their goal to become more healthy and to rely on plant medicine and how this can help them. But with these particular drugs, how that interaction could impede that from happening. So, yeah. And always, if you have questions, especially when it comes to pharmaceutical drugs, there are enough resources out there. But you can also, if you have a trusted pharmacist that you can talk to, that always helps as well. We may not have agreements on certain philosophies, but the education is the education. So they would be able to tell you this particular drug, these are the impacts, these are the parts of the body that this particular drug is acting on, these are the enzymes that are impacted. And this information is very important because make no mistake about it, when it comes to herbal formulation, the phytochemicals or the chemical properties of the herb, the intention is to act upon these same systems, right? So if you know what pharmaceutical drug, what its intention is on that particular system, then you now can say, let me find an herbal alternative to act on that system without the side effects and without all the other stuff that comes with it. But you got to have that knowledge. Okay? That's very important of the pharmacology side as well as the herbal medicine side. So let me give you and end with this. Some few cautions and considerations. Be very extra cautious with high-risk populations. So that's your transplant patients, any of those people that are on immunosuppressants, and individuals with chronic conditions that are indeed higher risk for herb-drug interactions and require careful consideration. All right, because transplant recipients are particularly vulnerable to herb-drug interactions because of their complex medication regimens, especially with immunosuppressants. And then elderly patients with all the different comorbidities, they're using multiple medications as well. And because of that, they are at an increased risk of adverse interactions. And then if there are patients, now mind you, I say clients, but I'm speaking of people that are taking pharmaceuticals, patients taking drugs with narrow therapeutic windows like warfarin or cyclosporine. People are at a greater risk because small changes in blood levels can lead to toxic effects or any type of therapeutic failure. So be extra cautious with these particular high-risk population. Number 2, consider the cumulative effects, okay? Multiple herbs, foods, and medications, they can have additive or synergistic effects on CYP enzymes, potentially amplifying the interactions. Various phytochemicals can induce or inhibit drug metabolizing enzymes, such as CYP enzymes. The combination of multiple herbs or foods can also have cumulative effects on CYP enzymes, thus increasing the risk of interactions. And then factors such as age, body composition, metabolism, kidney function, lifestyle, and comorbidities, all of these things, right? So when it says cumulative, consider all of it, can all contribute to the potential for any type of herb or drug interactions. And number 3, just be aware of common interacting herbs. You know, the studies are out there. St. John's wort is particularly notable for its potential to induce the CYP3A4 and reduce the drug efficacy. So if somebody's on pharmaceutical drugs and they're taking St. John's wort, obviously the doctor is going to say probably don't use that because it's going to reduce the ability of the drug to work. The other herbs are echinacea, ginkgo biloba, garlic, golden seal, milk thistle. These can all interact with medications as well, though their effects are generally less potent. Number 4, educate clients and encourage disclosure. So inform your clients about the potential for herb-drug interactions and the importance of disclosing all supplements used, okay? And then inquire regarding the usage of herbal supplements, because this is also important as well. Remember, it's all chemistry, darling. So you need to know all of that. And then stay informed at the end of the day. In closing, understanding CYP450 enzymes and their role in herb-drug interactions is very important for creating safe and effective herbal formulations. By considering metabolism pathways, delivery methods, medication profiles, and individual variability, herbalists can formulate with confidence while minimizing risk. So I hope this episode has helped you this evening. I hope it's helping you to connect some of the key dots in your herbal formulation process. And if you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on all of my social media sites at The Demystified Herbalist. Head over to thedemystifiedherbalist.square.site through Square and shop. Buy some stuff. There's herbal formulating tools, manuals, workbooks, all of this stuff to help you on your herbal medicine journey. I appreciate your support and your continued listen. Thank you so much, everybody who's reached out to me, sent me comments. I appreciate it, and I hope to continue to give you more valuable information going forward. And with that, family, I'm out.